Welcome to the Abundant Life Center service for Sunday, May 10th, 2026. Today, Carol Becker is going to share with us a discussion about, I believe it's forgiveness. Yes, forgiveness is the topic of our discussion. That's a broad topic, so we should see what we can zero in on.
Yeah,
So
that was hard to focus on because, as you say, it's broad, but I finally picked a focus. Hey, Arlene.
I don't know if she can hear us. I'm going to go ahead and light the God candle. The God candle is a symbol of the one power in the universe, known by many names. The name you choose to use for the divine is welcome here. I don't know if anybody can even see that candle. Okay. Um, so before we start, let's center ourselves with a grounded presence. So we'll begin with a very, very short meditation. Close your eyes. Imagine an old, sturdy chest sitting in front of you. The kind of chest built to last with a heavy latch on its lock. Reach out, lift the latch, and slowly open the lid. Inside, you see that the chest is completely empty. Now, picture all your worries, desires, and frustrations, everything that weighs on your mind or pulls at your attention. One by one, place them gently into the chest. Take a moment to be sure you've left nothing behind. When you're ready, close the lid and turn away, leaving the chest behind you. In front of you stretches a breathtaking view, the vast sea from the edge of a high cliff. Feel the fresh air, hear the sounds of the waves, and take in the peace of the open horizon. Open your eyes. You are calm, present, and free. And as it is the first Sunday of the month, we will begin with our beliefs. Our beliefs. Divine love is the source from which all of life flows. The direct experience of that ultimate source is available to all. All life is a unique expression of the divine to be revered. We co-create our world with the ultimate source and each other through consciousness. There are truth and wisdom in all spiritual paths, and we choose the path of love. And Eric is going to begin by playing an opening song, which is I'm Already Enough. I love that song. Oh, all right, we'll move into our meditation, which is I am enough, all is well. So with that, Carol, um, if you want to unmute yourself, please introduce your topic and we'll begin.
Okay. I love those every time I hear them. And what I know is that sometimes I don't feel it. I know it's true, but sometimes it's hard for me to feel it. And it's no surprise that it's hard for us to feel it in others. So we do a lot of forgiving for ourselves, and we may find it difficult there and even more difficult for others. And Gerald Jampolsky said, forgiveness is a choice to see the light instead of the lampshade. It's sometimes hard to see anything other than the lampshade. But when you can, you get to see the humanity inside. Because every person, for me for sure, is shaped by the wounds and fears, the conditioning and survival strategies that I developed in childhood. And in fact, that has led me to be pretty much a stoic. Because living with my Aunt Betty, I learned that it didn't pay emotionally to care. There was nothing you could do that was well enough done. And she just had to control you. And that's not my story. My story is about my brother and I. Because while I really didn't like her, even hated her, my brother thought she was okay. I was 7 when we went to live with her, and my brother was a baby. So he didn't know. He didn't know the joy of Nebraska, the open fields running free and wild, and people who weren't controlling you because they were too busy running the farm. You pretty much had to take care of yourself. And that's what I grew up with. So my brother and I got sideways with each other, and we hadn't spoken for over 50 years. Sometime in the late 80s, I picked up a book called Forgiveness, a Bold Choice for a Peaceful Heart. Not sure why that jumped out at me, but maybe it had to do with my Aunt Betty and my brother. It's part of my heart wanted peace from that. And I certainly didn't know it consciously, but that book drew me. And as I read it, I realized it would make a really good workshop to help people go through the process of forgiving when they chose to. And so I said, okay, Becker, you think that's such a great idea? Do it yourself. And so I said, okay. Uh-huh. Okay, brother. I wasn't willing to work on Aunt Betty, but I was willing to work on brother. And so I thought about contacting him. And then I thought, what if he still hates me? And that was the only scenario I could see for a year. And then finally, a part of me said, now, wait a minute. What if he wants to be back again with you? What if he wants to be friends again? And my heart just changed in lightness from there, from the heaviness of seeing the scenario where he didn't like me to the scenario where we were good friends again and we could laugh and do stuff. And so it was Christmas time, and I sent a card, and the card said the Christmassy stuff. And it said, it's been too long since we talked. So I sent that hesitantly, hopefully, and I don't think there was a whole bunch of faith, but maybe a tiny little light of faith in there somewhere. And he wrote back saying, tears flowed when I read your words. And yeah. And me thinking of it now, I'm just still feeling the joy that I felt then. Because I remember one of the things we used to do to challenge each other was play Indian wrestling, when you knew your legs and then try to throw each other over. Well, I was always able to throw him over until he grew up into a young man, and I couldn't do that anymore. So we stopped playing because, yeah, probably because I didn't like being losing. But yeah, so that was the story of my brother, and that was the story of the stuff that came through to me from the book Forgiveness, a bold choice for a peaceful heart. And so I'd like to share some of that book with you now. Forgiveness is not agreeing with behavior. It's releasing the poison of carrying bitterness. Freedom is not surrender. It's clarity, not denial. Strength is not passivity. Healing for the forgiver first. And did I have to forgive myself before I was willing to contact my brother? I think so. It wasn't a conscious forgiving. It was just, I don't know, just a willingness. Maybe you have to be willing to forgive. Anyway, it's not approval or forgetting. It's not allowing abuse and not instant reconciliation, although certainly it felt like it when I got that letter back from him. Forgiveness is difficult. Sometimes our identity is wound around the wound. The root of Aunt Betty, definitely, I became a stoic. Nobody was ever going to be able to hurt me ever again, which served me pretty well as an engineer. They didn't get emotional backlash from me. They got logic and common sense. Fear of vulnerability is another thing that makes it difficult. Desire for justice, some people, that was not part of my story. Well, it might have been for Aunt Betty, but I haven't done that story yet, so another time for her. And it's difficult because you have unresolved grief too, as I did, obviously, grieving the loss of my relationship with my brother. What it costs. For unforgiveness costs emotional exhaustion, bitterness, anxiety, physical stress, loss of peace. What it gives back, emotional freedom. Yep, energy, peace, compassion, and restored agency. So, a practical beginning, acknowledging the pain honestly, understanding humanity without excusing the harm, deciding not to let the injury define the future. A peaceful heart is rarely created by pretending pain didn't matter. More often, it comes from learning how to hold truth, grief, humanity, and mercy at the same time. Holding truth, grief, humanity, and mercy at the same time. And that's my story today. My brother helped me move up here from Phoenix. He let me live with him while I looked for a house, and he taught me about OfferUp and all those places where you can get furniture for my new house, which he helped me find too. Drove me around, looked at different houses, discussed the good things and the bad things. And I'm just sad for all the years we missed being
Hmm.
together and talking.
Hmm. Hmm. Something you said, I don't even remember the exact sentence, but it brought to mind something that I've been taught over the years that unforgiveness is like taking poison yourself and expecting the other person to die.
Right. Yeah, that's it. That, and yeah.
Yeah, and you forgiving yourself as well as them does not mean that they automatically will behave change their behavior, but it will have an influence energetically. So it will maybe just impact them enough so that they can come to closure as well.
And then, as you say, Eric, everything is energy. You may have
Yeah,
forgiven them and they don't even know it
that's right.
consciously.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't forgive face to face, that's great. If you are not face to face, you can still forgive, and it will still work the same way. Just more spread and take maybe more time.
And it doesn't have to be quote unquote forgiveness, because my relationship with my brother, that change was not the word forgiveness. It was a tentative reaching out without expectation,
Mm.
but with hope.
Yeah.
And then we both got it. Forgiveness.
Mm.
You leave your story behind you.
Mm. Well, when I think of unforgiveness, and there have been people and situations in my life over the years that I've felt a lot of resentment or anger or hurt over. But as long as you keep holding on to it, it's almost like an anchor pulling you down to the bottom of the ocean. And when you let go of that, it's freedom and it's a buoyancy and a lightness, and you don't have to think about it and stress over it anymore. It's almost like let go and let God. Accept it, let it go, live your life. Um, and I haven't, I don't think I've ever confronted or faced somebody in person and said, I forgive you, or do you forgive yourself, or, I forgive myself over the situation. It's all an internal, personal thing. But there's several people now that I can just think about with no feelings. It's a neutrality now. It's not anger and hatred. It's just neutral, which for me is a big step forward, because I don't have any grudges or bad feelings about them any longer.
The image you gave me of an anchor, it was beautiful because I could see the anchor holding me down under the water.
Mhm.
And the water, of course, was ocean water, and so it was kind of greenish and stuff. And when I let go of the anchor, when I was separated, I floated to the top and I could breathe again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it feels.
One of the things you mentioned, Carol, was that and part of your process with your brother, you forgave yourself first, whether you did it consciously or unconsciously.
Right.
And for me, that's a huge, huge part of forgiveness, mostly because I just have the type of personality that thinks I'm always to blame. It's just how it rolls. And so giving myself the grace to have played a part in the situation, um, whether I played the part mindfully or accidentally, I being able to, once I really finally learned how to forgive myself, it changed a lot of my perspective about how I saw situations where I felt like somebody else might have needed my forgiveness. So
That's
just
wonderful. Yeah.
releasing my responsibility in the situation makes it easier to release the other people of their responsibility in the situation.
Mm.
Have you experienced it's a situation that you forgave yourself for comes back? See what I mean?
Say again.
Where, let's say you forgive yourself for a situation,
Oh,
but
whether
the
I
situation, yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
but the situation comes back and you recognize it and you feel like, well, it's not forgiven, I guess, or it's not gone. So you reignite the same aspect. See what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know how much history repeats itself there. I don't know. I don't know if there's a lesson that I need to get hit over the head with multiple times before I learn it.
Well,
I,
there's one aspect that comes to mind is as you remember the situation, uh, and it still has energy, that it will come back into the present. This is because there is no past and there's no future. So your thought of a past event is bringing it back into the present. So if it still carries energy, you by itself reignite it, right?
Yeah, and there are so many ways to deal with that and acknowledge it and understand it. There will be a day when I can say my brother-in-law's name and not feel anger and frustration and dislike. It'll happen. But it's not as vehement as it used to be. So maybe
Right.
there's movement towards forgiveness there.
Yeah, I had a really, really good friend who was a New Thought minister,
Hmm.
and through some kind of event at one of the uh, temples, Buddhist temples, she had a conversion to being a charismatic Christian.
Oh,
Oh,
simple.
whoa, what a change.
Yeah, and so when she told me about that, I mean, she had an instant healing, was what it was. And so when she told me about that, I said, I guess we can't be friends anymore then, because I've always been shunned when I had a friend that turned Christian on me. And she said, oh no, she said, Jesus loves you. He doesn't like what you're doing, but he loves you. How could I do less?
Oh my God.
And we're still friends.
Well, that's really generous of you because that's pretty condescending.
That was my thoughts. Like, who is she to determine that you're doing the wrong thing?
I thought that as a lesson that I could use in my life. I may
No,
not like what you're doing, but I love you.
you're more generous.
Yeah.
Well, forgiveness is a decision, and it
Yeah.
starts in your heart with you.
But I think your example also shows that there's a progression, right? I mean, these things are not static and fixed, where you have an opinion about somebody and you can't change that opinion, or even be uh, like Kay said, and this person may change because they're also on their path, like you're on your path.
Right.
Mhm.
So the aspect, the realization, I would say, is really to not judge.
Mhm.
And the things that happen to us when we're younger that make us the way we are, that happened to my aunt, only I didn't know it.
Mhm.
Her thing about controlling, when she was younger, her father was murdered, and the man her mother married was a child abuser and a drunk.
Mhm.
And so her goal was to keep me safe no matter what.
Mhm.
I didn't know that. I only hated being controlled. And it was only getting back to my brother that I found out about it because his wife found out about it and told me. So
Um,
when Lynn told me what had happened to Aunt Betty, I immediately knew and understood why she did what she did, and I no longer felt the hatred. I
mhm.
felt the sorrow for her.
But that was her expression of love for you.
Yes.
And what I always think, like my aunt B, Bernice, had four kids who had nothing to do with her late in her life and seemed so sad, and they held things against her. And my sister and I both say over and over she was doing the best she could at the time with what she knew. And the things she did that they hated her for was, she was trying to raise four kids as a single mother, working and doing whatever she had to do. And she couldn't, she couldn't live up to their expectations, but she did what she knew. And it goes back generationally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very often to see branches of the family tree with catastrophic crop failures. Just eh, uh, and until somebody realizes that this is a generational thing and tries to stop and change, it just perpetuates itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was raised by a perfectionist mother. So I have many of her tendencies. And I learned at some point in my life, she lived by the mantra anything worth doing is worth doing perfectly. But she got that from her dad, who was a carpenter during the Depression. And if he didn't measure the board properly, he couldn't afford to replace it because money was scarce and they traded, eggs for services or whatever. And so he had to live by that in his profession to be perfect so that he could make a living. But my mother took that as her goal in her entire life, and every person and everything in her life had to be perfect. And it was, just a different perspective of the same philosophy, but it worked for my grandpa.
I inherited the same tendency. My dad was a furniture maker, and he taught me measure twice, cut
Yep.
once.
Cut once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I always do it still. So I measure, and then I check again, I check, and then I measure again, and then I cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Like my mom had a very strong need and desire for order in her life, and with 7 kids, our household was a bit insane. And I happened to be ADD, disorganized, discombobulated, could never find my shoes. Um, and so I was a real challenge to her as a child because I just couldn't do things the way she wanted them. And so when we had our children, I was like, nope, you don't have to make your bed. You don't have to clean your room. I don't care. That's not a hill I'm going to die on. I'm not battling this with you. And now, as my sons are adults, they're like, God, Mom, why didn't you make us keep our rooms clean? Why didn't you teach us to
Well,
make our
It's
bed?
like you can't win, huh?
no,
Because
they both have OCD wives.
they do. They both married women who are very organized.
And they say opposites attract.
That's funny.
Yeah, I still think that forgiving yourself is truly an act of love for yourself. Uh, and we need as many as we can, these acts of love, because if you don't love yourself, life is rough, because you put yourself down all the time. Whatever you do, you put yourself down and so on. And there's no reason for that. An error is an error. Big deal. Move on.
Learn
And
from it and move on.
that's right. You learn from it, and that's it. So I think we need more of these acts of self-love in our life, and we need to look for them.
Laurel or Arlene, you guys are kind of quiet in this discussion. Do you have anything to chime in?
I don't quite understand the whole concept of forgiveness, I guess. I just don't understand it. It doesn't make logical sense to me. And I suffered abuse as a child, and I have a whole world of stuff that is not forgiven. And I remember I have flashbacks of being out in the garage doing something to work for and help my dad, and his threatening me. And I remember once there was a board on the wall, a 2x4 with a rusty nail in it that he threatened to knock my ears down a straddle of my hip bones, and he's going to go get that board and do it. And he reaches for the board. I remember how afraid I was, but then I grinned. And there was something funny in my mind's eye about seeing my ears down a straddle of my hip bones. And so I reframed that picture, that I don't have that feeling in my gut like like I used to. Like, is he really going to hit me? Is he going to hurt me? What am I going to do? Is there going to be blood? Is it going to be somebody going to die? I did, that when you have that fear, is somebody going to die? And what do you have to do to be safe? How do you forgive that? You can't forgive it and forget it. You can't forget it. And so I don't understand forgiveness. And so when I listen to you all talk about it, it feels apart from me and who I am because I'm trying to understand, how do you do that? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to forgive that.
Can you sit with the pain that you experienced when you had these experiences?
I try to reframe it like when I was afraid, if I made it came to me a picture of, like I said, of my ears down a straddle of my hip bones, and it was funny, and I turned it into a cartoon picture in my mind's eye so I can change things that way. But as far as forgiving my dad for threatening me in that way when I was outside, actually in the garage, trying to sweep the floor for him, and it was a nasty garage floor, and he was trying to paint something, a picture, a window frame with white paint. I can understand why he's mad. I'm sweeping and making dust, and he's trying to paint, and he's mad. But I'm a little girl. I want to be with him. I want to help him. I want to do this thing with him in my heart for him. And I was threatened, and it was all turned around to not be a part. I don't know how to turn that back around. I don't have
Arlene,
a desire to.
Arlene, you are where you are, and you are enough.
Pardon me, say it again.
You are where you are right now, and that is enough. You are enough.
Thank you. I am enough. I
Yes.
feel totally enough. You know what? I'm smart. I'm creative. I do stuff. I take care of myself. I have lots of friends and lots of people that love me. And the people that I have in my life now that are alive, I have two brothers, and that's the only family I have. And I don't have things I need to forgive them for. I'm sure they got stuff they need to forgive me for because it was my job to cook all that food and make it all work and keep the house clean and do all that. And sometimes I did it, and sometimes I did it well. Sometimes I didn't. Oh, and sometimes I'd be mad. You know what they would do? They had a fort and they put a sign up there that said no girls allowed. And they had Playboy magazines and they'd read, and I didn't understand it. So I'd go climb up in the tree fort. And climbing the tree wasn't something I was good at doing. So they'd help me up into the tree and boost me up. Then I'd be stuck in the tree. To get out of the tree, you had to jump and grab this rope and climb down a rope. Oh, I didn't know how to do it. So I'd be stuck in this tree all day. And that would be like, okay. And it was like a weird thing. I don't know how to tell you about forgiveness
I
because I
understand.
don't have it. I don't feel it. I don't have a need for it.
And
Yeah,
what I'm saying, Arlene, is you are okay where you are with all those feelings, period.
right, but you carry them forward all the time, because you don't let them go.
And that's
My,
okay. That's where
yeah,
she
yes,
is
it is.
now.
It is okay, but if you want to work on them and not carry them forward, you have to remember them and then just slowly see them dissolve. And you need to feel it in your body where you feel like a release, a weight that comes off. And you're going to have to do it again and again until it's all gone, where thinking about it does not create any reaction in your body anymore.
Is that what you did, Eric?
That's what I do when I have to forgive something to somebody. You know, it's
Layers
just
of an onion, huh?
yeah, yeah. Well, it doesn't go away just by itself,
No.
because you bring it back forward. As long as the energy is there, it is anchored in you, it hurts. When the energy to the trauma is not there anymore, the memory is still there, but you can't feel it in your body. And this is the work that you need to sit with.
And that is, I think, the key to self-forgiveness.
Yeah,
Well,
when
do
you
you
can
know
get to that point.
what I'm remembering now is the role my mother played in that whole big picture, and that is complicated for me. I think that's probably my piece of forgiveness. She went away. She went and got a job and went to work and did her thing. I remember calling her up and telling her, "You got to come home. Dad's gonna kill our brother. You know, he's hitting him in the head with a screwdriver right now up in the attic." And I'm begging her to come home, and she won't come home. And my feeling about it was one that if my brother would have not survived that experience, that would have been one less thing she would have had to worry about. And I felt that she had that. And what do I do with that? Like I probably got some forgiveness to do there with my mother. My mother was like, you guys know Rosie the Riveter, right?
Right.
That's what my mother did during the war. And when she met my dad couldn't be in the military because he was too short. And he was always angry and always trying to be equal and carrying a shovel. He's going to knock somebody in the head. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. And he's always going to do something hurtful and mean. And that's the way I was raised. I was threatened.
Oh,
And
Arlene, that sounds like my first husband, who was 5'2". I loved him, but he didn't love being him. He was always being harassed and teased and bullied for being the short guy. And he didn't like me wearing heels because I was already taller than him. And when we were together, we were fine. But when we were around people, he was always putting me down because he had to be the man.
Mhm.
And yeah, so.
There is another way to look at it, and I've been playing with that too, and it's kind of interesting. You can rewrite the past. You can go back in the past and essentially make a new story for yourself. Because the story that you carry really doesn't matter, it just hurts you. So rewriting a new story, in a repetitive fashion, gives you essentially a break from that. And so you can rewrite your past.
Oh, Eric, I did that.
I did it
I
too.
have to tell you about this. Yes, because what I did when I finally realized something about my aunt, then I imagined that she had been loved, that she had been cared for, and I imagined a scenario that we used to have where I'd be on the floor reading and she wants me to get up and do something. I didn't want to get up and do something. I wanted to do what I was doing right then. And what I imagined her was coming over and saying, "Oh, you're reading. What are you reading?" And she said, "When you're through reading, I need like you to do this thing over here." And I'd say, "Okay," and go back to the reading. I had a different aunt after that in my mind, a person who unfortunately hadn't been given love and affection, but as the person who had been given love and affection knew how to do that.
But realize as you experience that yourself, you emit energy that will change your ant just the same. Oh yeah, it's
I never saw her again before she died.
no, but it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. You,
yeah,
you
right.
change the story, and this energy flows.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a quantum universe. You
Oh
never know
yeah, it is.
yeah.
which path you're taking. Oh, how about you, Laurel? How's it going today?
It's going fine. And I mean, one of my big forgiveness issues was with my mom. And I mean, there's nothing that new about it. And I mean, she was so dominant in my life. I had a stepfather, but he just he was on the margins. So she was like my focal. We had so many disagreements, and we disagreed until well, towards the end we started to understand each other, I think, a little bit. And I just would never go along with her way of thinking, especially about religion. And towards the end we started to understand each other a little bit more. because she was just determined that she was the parent and I should just believe the way that she believed and do the things that she thought I should do. But I could never quite do that. So that was one of the biggest, it was a big learning for me. And for me, it actually just started to lift off of me. And I thought about her life a lot, about the difficulties she'd had in her life. And I just continued to think about some of the difficulties and knowing some of the people that she had difficulties with. Just gradually, it started just lifting off my head. And so through that process, I was able to forgive her for not being the person that I wanted her to be, not being the mother I wanted her or needed her to be. Um, but and then forgiving yourself. That is it's so insipid, it's just it's down there. It's like the little mustard seed, that just festers. And we don't even realize that we're not forgiving ourselves for faults or mistakes that we made. And it's just like a tiny little mustard seed. It's not even that big, but it's there and it's having an impact. So forgiving yourself is, I think, a huge, huge thing. That's what I've been thinking about, and all the awesome stories. We always bring more out, as we're like,
Yeah.
topics might kind of repeat themselves, but it seems like we bring out more every time we discuss it. So
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody's input, really.
Everybody's vulnerability and willingness to share. This is one of the reasons why I feel so close to this community, is because we've only known you guys for 7 years, but I feel so close to each and every one of you because you're so willing to be vulnerable and share your deep thoughts with this group. And it's really nice. When we were at Paul's service yesterday, I was thinking, wow, we've only known this man for 7 years, but he made a huge impact on our lives.
Oh,
So,
yep.
y'all make an impact on my life.
I'm so glad you're part of our circle, and I have like a whole lot of love and respect and honor, and I cherish you, and you're a part of our circle. It's like it's not any other way. It's just what it is, and it's good and it's beautiful.
Well, thank
And
you. Thank you for
Cheryl,
holding
you were
my
going to
hand.
say something.
Yeah, one thought that came to mind about self-forgiveness, um, you know, everything that happens, I think happens maybe not for a reason, but you can make a lesson and a learning experience out of it. And so I always say, I never regret anything I did. I only regret things I didn't do. And the things I did that I perceive as mistakes have made me the person I am today. So, had I not done something that in my eyes or somebody else's eyes was a mistake, I wouldn't be who I am, where I am, and I like myself. So, all those mistakes that happened, I learned from and maybe didn't repeat them again and can use them as a life lesson rather than, a regret, just something that happened that I learned from and got better because of.
I started in my morning meditation to see myself sitting in a situation or a place in the world or wherever, and just sit there and feel the overflow of energy coming from me and just spreading, and also seeing that you can't wash it away. It just kind of puts a thin coat of this energy through everything that it goes through the people, through the places, through the object. It doesn't matter. And this is, I think, it's the power that you give to change things. Imagine yourself doing the same, but in a state of lack. Well, you pull in all the energy from others, right, for whatever is not okay in your view, and you make it yours. And this is hurting you. you know, it's not working. So putting yourself into a state where you can't just overflow is I think what we call, this is what I call presence. It put this presence out there where you are in these states and you can maintain it, you know.
Well, I want to say something about my aunt that I learned, speaking of learning lessons. I learned how to control my emotions, which is what served me well working in engineering with men, because there weren't many women in that engineering field at that time. And the other thing I learned from my aunt, which seems totally opposite, was she believed that all beliefs were valid, that there were many paths.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
and she comes from a Mennonite background. And
That,
so that was a gift she gave me. And I have a friend who's no longer alive who said always, no matter what's happening, look for the gift.
well, that sounds like a perfect remark to close our discussion on. No matter what's happening, look for the gift. Try and find the gift. We've got a lot of new strategies, a lot of new thoughts, a lot of new ways to look at things, thanks to our discussion today. Okay, so we're going to close with a song called Heal the World. That was nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Did everyone enjoy hearing Darcy's voice
Oh my
yesterday?
God.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love her voice. I just love her voice.
I
Her
got a
and
kick out of that guitarist. He was just a big old smile every time I saw him come on.
how about the
Mm.
keyboardist? She was like barefooted, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Oh,
Anybody notice she was barefooted?
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was barefooted, but Darcy's voice, oh my gosh.
Well, Darcy mentioned that the universe really blessed her when Brent passed away. She didn't know if she was going to continue carrying on with her music, and her friends gathered around her, and she found somebody to play with, and
Aw,
back at it again. So, yeah, she's a very joyful soul.
she is.
So as we close, we greet each other with namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.
And I just want to remind you that the Abundant Life Center is an independent spiritual community, um, entirely supported by God's love and your gifts. And we email information on ways that you can give.